Have you ever ran like God during a poker session? If you have, you know there's no better feeling when your bluffs are working, the deck is cooperating, and you walk out of the poker room with a lot more money than you had going in. You're about to watch a player known as Efan have one of those sessions. Efan is a regular player at the Lodge Card Club in Austin, Texas, and he's playing in a relatively high-stakes game here. We're starting off with the first hand where he raises it up with Jack 10 offsuit from the cutoff. He gets 3 callers behind and flops really well top 2. Little does he know, Terrace in the big blind has flopped bottom set with pocket 5s. It's not really looking too great for Efan right out of the gate. Terrace springs to life with a lead out of the big blind. The action does fold to Efan, and you know, with top 2, you really can't blame him. He's going to raise it up to $1,100. His opponent started the hand with 16K. Efan started the hand with 9,000. So Efan is the effective stack here, and if he wants to get this money in by the river, he has to raise the flop. He doesn't know he's against a set, though, so he wants to raise it up and try to get max value from a hand like a jack, or maybe a draw like 8-9 or king-queen. Action back on Terrace after High gets out of the way with Ace High, and now he's mulling over whether or not to re-raise. The stacks are pretty deep, so he is somewhat incentivized to raise right away, try to get the money in, and that's exactly what he does. Efan, of course, not going anywhere with the top 2 pair. It's really just a cooler scenario. And unfortunately for Efan, it looks like his session, somewhat early on, is going to start off on the wrong foot. The players are going to run it once. The turn's the 2 of spades, and the river is the 10 of spades. Efan catches up, and now the cooler has reversed. He's going to drag an $18,500 pot as all the players at the table are smiling, including Terrace, who just lost that massive 5-figure pot. Always good when those are the vibes at the table. By the way, an interesting note here is the stand-up game was in effect there. The stand-up game is when players all start standing up and there is a preset amount that the last person standing has to pay everyone else. When you win a pot, you sit down. So you're really incentivized to try to win pots during the stand-up game. That's why you see players standing at certain points there. Usually creates a little bit more action because everyone's trying to sit down and not be that last person standing who has to pay everyone money. Anyway, on to the next hand here. As you can see, Yu-Chan, under the gun, raises it up. Looks like he made it $150, and Efan 3-bet next to act with the pocket 9s. Yu-Chan, ace-5 suited, probably not going to go anywhere, and you can note here that both players are sitting, so there's no stand-up game shenanigans to talk about here. This is just regular poker. They are pretty deep, though. There was a straddle on this hand to 50, so this initial raise from Yu-Chan was a 3x to $150. Efan made a good 3-bet size to 450, and now Yu-Chan is going to use his ace-5 suited as a 4-bet bluff. Looks like he raises it up to $1,350. Now, Efan has position. He has a hand that can obviously flop very well if he flops a 9. So, getting pretty good pot odds. Wouldn't really expect him to go anywhere. If they were shorter, maybe he could consider a fold because it's not quite as valuable to hit a set when you're up against an overpair. But in any case, they are deep, and he does call. The flop comes King 7-7 with 2 hearts. Overall, a pretty good flop for Yu-Chan, I would say. Yu-Chan is more likely to have the really strong hands on this board, like pocket aces, pocket kings, ace-king. That said, Efan can have a lot of the middle hands here, stuff like king-queen suited. Efan could maybe have something like ace-king offsuit himself if he chose not to 5-bet that preflop, which would be understandable. So it's an interesting spot here. Yu-Chan is going to use a small bet size on the flop, which makes sense. When you have the superior range, you usually do want to bet smaller sizes on the flop. Not always true, but generally is. I would say neither player is super likely to have a 7 here, so the trips is almost not relevant. It's, you know, it's possible that one of the players has ace-7 suited, 8-7 suited, but it's not very likely. In any case, Yu-Chan's small bet on the flop does get called, and he picks up some extra equity on the turn. He's now got the nut flush draw. Of course, the nut flush draw on a double paired board. Not the most attractive thing, but if you're going to bluff with any hand here, this seems like a reasonable one to use. Yes, you could be drawing dead if your opponent has a king or a 7 or pocket 7s. But if your opponent does have a hand like pocket 9s, like Efan has, you have pretty good equity. As you could see next to Yu-Chan, he's got 27%. And he's mulling over a bet here as he shuffles those green $25 chips. And it looks like he's going to toss out one of those pink 5Ks. We call them the bubblegum chips at the lodge. And he bets $1,700 with that chip. Now it's on Efan. He's got to call $1,700 to win $6,000, and he doesn't think about it for long. He puts in that call fairly quickly as the dealer asks another player for change. And now we're going to see a river with $7,600 in the pot. Expensive river here. Efan needs to fade a club, but since you're watching this video, you probably knew he did. River is the 5 of hearts, which does complete that front door flush. And now Yu-Chan's got to decide whether or not he wants to bluff here. Could definitely credibly represent a king, hand like ace-king. And if he does that, Efan's going to be in a very tough position with just pocket 9s. It'll be really tough to make that call, but fortunately for Efan, he doesn't have to make that decision. Yu-Chan checks, Efan checks back, and drags this pot. And now you can see where we're at. About midway through the session here, Efan, who was in for $10,000, he's now got $22,500 in front of him. That's good for a $12,000 profit, with some change, of course. We've got a couple more hands for you here from Efan's session. This time, he is first to act. With the $50 straddle on, he's going to make it $150 to go. Action folds around to the button. Pierre, another stream regular, originally from Italy. He's got pocket kings, so you know what's happening. He's going to re-raise. Makes it $500 to go. Efan with the ace-queen. Could kind of go either way. Could definitely 4-bet that hand as a sort of pre-flop bluff. Calling makes sense too. Folding's not even out of the question against certain players. That said, Pierre is fairly aggressive. So Efan's certainly not going to be considering folding ace-queen, which is kind of clear considering how fast he called pre-flop there. The flop goes check-check, surprisingly. Pierre deciding not to bet for value on the 9-7-5 flop, opting for pot control instead. It is, of course, possible that Efan has a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 7s, or pocket 5s, so perhaps that was in Pierre's head there with that check back. Now we're on the turn. Very nice one for Pierre. Total brick on the 3. And now he's going to start going for value and building this pot. He bets 400. Gets called. And the river is a scary card. Brings 4 cards to a straight. Now basically any middle pocket pair beats Pierre. Pocket 4s is a straight. Pocket 8s is a straight. All suited connectors pretty much have Pierre beat, save for like 9-10 suited. So this is really not a great run out for Pierre. And that's perhaps why he checked back the flop, knowing that there were a decent amount of runouts like this that would not be so favorable for him. And now Efan decides to represent one of those strong hands. Perhaps pocket 4s, perhaps pocket 8s, 7-8 suited, all that kind of stuff he can have. He goes for a bet for $1,500. I do think Efan could make this bet with a hand that's not a straight as well. I think 2-pair or a set is clearly going to be the best hand here. And if you're in Efan's shoes, you really don't want to check to Pierre and allow him to just check back with a hand like pocket kings or a hand like pocket 10s or a hand like a 9. So leading out with a hand like a set or a straight, 2-pair, definitely makes sense in Efan's shoes. But in this case, he's balancing out those value bets with this ace-high bluff. Pretty creative stuff here from Efan. Pierre's got to call $1,500 to win this $3,400 pot, and as you can see, he is bemoaning his luck at this run out. Not happy to have seen the dealer put that 4 card straight out there in 2 different spots. While we're waiting, let us know in the comments if you think Pierre should be calling or folding here. And in general, let us know what you think of Efan's plays. He makes a lot of interesting plays in this video. I'm curious to see what the good people of YouTube think about his decisions. Pierre does let it go. Efan drags his 3rd pot of this video. And now we're moving on to the last hand that we're going to show you today. The stand-up game is back, so there's once again a big incentive to try to win the pot. If you're enjoying this video, by the way, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free for you to do, and it means everything to us here at the Logic Card Club. We're trying to put out the best poker content for you that we possibly can. Got a new stream in the works right now. Beautiful new studio that's going to be up in early 2023. So yeah, please support us, follow our journey, and watch some great poker. Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like so more people can find it. So in this hand, Efan just calls under the gun with the $100 straddle on. It's actually a double straddle. And we go 5 ways to the flop with no raises going in pre-flop. 2 players flop middle pair, 1 player flops bottom pair. J-Win and High essentially tied here. But it's going to be tough to stick around to the river with just a pair of 8s. As you see High go for that bet in position. Looking for some protection. J-Win, poker vlogger and another regular on the stream. He decides to call. He does have a decent amount going on with his hand. Not only does he have that middle pair, he's got 3 cards to a straight. He's got 3 cards to a flush, so a lot of nice turns can come off for him. Something like the 6 of hearts would be a beautiful card for him. Efan comes along with his 2 overcards. He's got a backdoor flush draw of his own with the king of diamonds. And we get the queen of clubs on the turn, which gives Efan a gut shot to go with his 2 overcards. Now the action checks to High again, and he's going to go for another bet with his 8. Interesting bet here. Kind of a half bluff, half protection bet. I think he will get some better hands to fold here. For example, I think J-Win's got to get out of the way with this 8-7 now. You got a player behind. You're facing a guy in High who has bet the flop into 4 players and now bets the turn again into 2 players. That 8-7 really shrivels up, and he did not pick up any additional equity. No heart, no 10, no 6. Not much going on for J-Win, so he's probably just got to pitch it, but he's mulling it over. Again, the stand-up game is in effect. All 3 of these players have not won a pot since this stand-up game started, so they're all at risk of losing that bounty, should they be the last one standing. So he's got to be a little bit more willing to fight for pots. But 8-7 suited here, probably too loose, even with the stand-up game in play. I'm pretty confident we are going to see him throw these cards in the muck, as we see him do just that. And now the action is back on Efan, and he quickly reaches for much more than that $700 bet that High made. He throws in 2 banana chips worth 1K each and a 500. Makes it 2,500 total to go. Now the action's on High. He's got to call 1,800 to continue battling for this $5,000 pot, and he does it relatively quickly with not much going on. Really needs an 8 or a 6 to feel confident on this river, and the 6 of diamonds wouldn't even be that good for him, so a very loose call from him. And the river's the ace of clubs. Now Efan's gonna have to show some heart and fire again if he wants to win this pot. But, you know, once again, you click this video. You know what the title is. You know what I've been talking about this whole time. So I think you could probably guess what happens. Efan bets $3,000, under half the pot, really trying to make this bet look like it's a value bet. I think he's representing a hand like Queen 9, maybe Jack 10, but I think that would probably bet bigger. In any case, High lets it go with his measly 8. Efan shows the bluff and takes a seat. And right there, you see the cumulative winnings for the entire session. Efan winning over $15,000 in this session. Not too bad for a few hours of 10.25 at the lodge. If you enjoyed this video, again, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Leave a comment below with what you think of this format, having a commentator talk over the hands. And we'll see you in the next one.